recording this now. Oh, all right. Well, that should work. I haven't
Okay.
used Zoom since COVID, and
Okay.
that was not a fun experience. I was not a fan. But I guess just starting off, tell me a bit about yourself, how you got to where you are working for Sirius XM for 25 years and
Yeah.
6 months on your
So
LinkedIn.
Andrew, before I get started, Dylan, really tell me what you're interviewing for. Like, is this for a certain class or
Yeah,
what's
this
the
is an
purpose here?
in so apparently so this is how it's this is what my teacher was telling me. It's to give an informational interview, just kind of it's a more casual than like a job interview. And it's just kind of to understand how somebody got to where they were and how they were able to make a career out of what they were doing.
Yeah.
Just to sort of like understand how people like develop in their careers and over time, sort of like that.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So what was the first question?
So let's start at the beginning. What did you kind of do in college, and did that at all pertain to what your career was now?
Yeah. I went to a local four-year university called Oakland University. Um,
Yeah.
and I got and actually they've been in like the tournament of 64 a couple times, the Golden Grizzlies, but it's not the big Michigan State school, but I got a electrical engineering degree there.
Okay.
Um, and Yeah, I guess when I came out of high school, engineering was really hot. Wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Um,
Hmm.
I just knew that I needed to make money. I was sort of interested in that. So it was a very hard degree, but that's what I went and got. Um, and then yeah, when I graduated, I started working. It wasn't really long into work that I realized that it really wasn't a passion of mine. I wasn't going to be happy sort of sitting at a bench wiring things all day long or working on circuits. Um, my talents were always more the ability to multitask and be interested in different things. So, um, my second job I had out of college actually, paid for my master's. So I went and got an MBA at the same
Okay.
school. Um, so I didn't have the money to go away to school, so I lived at home, lived in an apartment with the buddies, and went to the local school and got my MBA there as well. So
Okay.
yeah, and then but in Michigan here, there's you know growing up in Michigan, it was sort of if you're an engineer, right, it's get a job at
Yeah.
one of the big three, work for Ford, GM, or Chrysler. So I knew a lot of people, a lot of the guys I went to high school or college with, um, sort of I had jobs or engineering jobs already at those companies. So yeah, I started at a small wiring company that I was only there for a few months, and then one of my fraternity brothers, or and he actually went to high school with me too, worked at
Hmm.
General Motors in Flint, up at
Yeah.
Cadillac, and so yeah, he helped me get a my next engineering job basically there at Cadillac.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
what is it? It says also, I'm going off your LinkedIn because the only like information I could find is the LinkedIn stuff.
yeah, which I haven't
There's,
updated in probably like 20 years. So
yeah, it's 2000 actually.
yeah, well, yeah, I've been at the same job since 2000. So yeah,
Yeah.
I probably should update it, but so yeah,
Yeah.
I worked there, got a glimpse of what the big company was like.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I don't think I started my MBA yet, or maybe I just started it, but I wasn't there for very long. And uh, another a friend of a friend, so they're looking for a sales engineer, which sounded more interesting than just being an engineer. So you're sort of an engineer, but you're like a technical salesperson, basically. Um,
Okay.
so it was for a small wiring company, or I'm
Hmm.
sorry, a small speaker company that bought out by Harman. So it's basically worked for Harman for like 2.5 years.
Okay.
Um, and honestly, Andrew, things went south there. Didn't go very well. My boss was a tool. We didn't get along.
Mm.
Actually, was in my same subdivision, and I remember my mom asking me, "Why would you go work for that guy? He's always been an asshole." I actually took his sister to homecoming one year, but he was always like the neighborhood sort of. Eh. I wouldn't say jerk, just sort of very pompous. Anyways, didn't work with him. I'd say I got fired and quit sort of at the same time. Um,
Okay, okay.
Took another job for just a short time, but then somebody from Harmon reached out to me and said, "Hey, and this is when I was getting my MBA. Said there's this new company starting called Sirius. It's a satellite radio company.
Mhm.
Nobody knew about it. Um, and I think what you've seen already for me, the theme for me, and I tell my boys this all the time. You know, I work with a lot of smart people, but
Mhm.
is much more important than smarts is contacts and knowing people, right? My first job at GM was because high school friends or a college friend, and then
Yeah.
this thing at Sirius XM, they were looking for somebody like me that could multitask, was good with people, good talking in front of people,
Hmm.
um, could handle business topics as well as engineering topics. Um, and frankly, at that time, a lot of people were like, well, I don't want to go to this startup. Like, who's going to pay for radio, right? So
Yeah.
I used to drive an hour to work each direction, especially in the morning. You could turn 10 different FM stations on and never even hear a song. You just hear people talking about their dates, right? Because it's all commercials and talk, right?
Hmm.
So that's what sort of drew me to it. Took a chance, and that's sort of how I got the Sirius XM, basically. And then it just sort of blossomed from there. I mean, I love the product, and I think Dylan probably is, and I think you do too, have the same entrepreneurial spirit, right? Running to work for for a startup or doing something on your own,
Yeah.
and in the very early days, there wasn't a lot of us. So I made a lot of contacts in the industry. Um, and, at one time, I think the first 3 years I went to Japan and Germany like 9 times a piece or something like that. And
Wow.
got the Toyota, Honda, Kenwood, Sony, Mitsubishi, like any radio manufacturer you can name or OEM you can name. I got to go to all of them and got to meet a lot of people, right?
Hmm.
So again, it's context and holding yourself. I think is really important. So I don't know.
Really.
That's a long-winded answer to your question, but
Yeah, yeah. And I hear way, way too many times that networking and connections is literally everything. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know, all that stuff. And how would you would say you improved your networking? Because I'm assuming you weren't the world's best networker from day one. I'm assuming you were stuttering and you said a lot and maybe you just kind of didn't know what to say from time to time. How did you like improve on that?
um, I mean, I've always been a pretty social person, honestly, Andrew. To be honest with you, so um, I mean, I guess if when I was at Sirius, early on going to these meetings, I'd
Hmm.
have no problem really just going up and introducing myself. I mean, early on at Sirius, let me jump back. Like when I was at GM, Andrew, like I had a beeper, right? There was no, I mean, very few people had cell phones back then.
Really?
I didn't have a laptop. I shared a desktop with somebody, and
Oh.
instead of getting 100 emails a day, I would get like 100 voicemails a day, right? So this is sort of the transition period, right? And by the
Yeah.
time I was working at Sirius, like people were off beepers and on cell phones, but
Hmm.
there wasn't really like a lot of social media at that time. I mean, I don't even know if Facebook had even really gotten going, by then. So I mean, I would say the first part of my career was a lot of just a ton of meetings, just a lot of people, and
Hmm.
when you go up to Chrysler too, most people don't realize this, but the Chrysler building is the second largest building in America besides the Pentagon. So like when you go up there, there's 14,000 people that used to work pre-COVID that used to work in that building.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I'd go up there and I have a meeting with my engineers or whatever, and um, just get introduced to this person and that person, and you just sort of, you expand your networking that way. Um, if that makes sense. It's honestly, Andrew, I think I'm probably struggling more with networking now than I did earlier in my career because as I'm getting older, your technologies and your ways of talking to people is different, right? You guys are on your phones all day long and all these different Snapchats and all this different other stuff, Um,
Yeah.
and I'm the old guy in my office now compared to the younger people that are coming up, right?
Hmm.
So it is different. It is sort of a transition period. And I probably need to do a little bit better job because there's so many new people that I work with at Stellantis that I don't even know where they came from and I didn't know them before and I don't have relationships with them. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's really the thing. Technology moves so fast. Everybody tells me, my dad especially, how he didn't have a phone until I think he was getting his degree in law in what is it, UC Davis, I'm sure. And even then he shared it with his what is it, with my mom. He shared a phone with
yeah.
her because they didn't have their own phones. They just kind of had a landline at their house and
Mhm.
then a cell phone they shared.
Yeah. But back to the relationship thing too is it's a little. I mean, I've been able to take advantage of it.
Hmm.
I'm hoping that I can be able to take advantage of it for another 4 or 5 years. It gets harder and harder. But yeah, I just that when they say don't burn any bridges, it's hard sometimes. But when I worked at Harman,
Yeah.
and I got let go, I like to say slash got fired, got let go, and sort of quit the same day. Um, that guy that I work for, I don't know how many times I've seen him in the last 25 years since I've worked at Sirius XM because Harman is one of our suppliers. So I work with Harman all the time. I've been on like 6 golf outings with the guy since because we're still in the same circle,
Mm.
and you never know when you might work with somebody again or this guy might be your boss again, so
Yeah.
that saying is very important. Um, the other thing about relationships, at least when I've seen it at Sirius and I've seen it at Chrysler, or it's not Chrysler anymore, it's Stellantis now. Um, when I see it all the time is like, um, try to give you an example, but our we had a CEO that retired a couple years ago named Jim Meyer.
Hmm.
Um, when he came to Sirius XM, he was the CEO of RCA Television. But RCA Televisions went out of business. He came to Sirius as a executive vice president. But when he
Hmm.
came, Andrew, he brought like 10 of his own people, a vice president of product, a vice president of sales, a vice president. He brought like his whole team with him. And it's interesting because I've seen that. I see that time and time again throughout my career. We just hired a new EVP that's a chart my boss's boss,
Mm.
and he brought like 4 or 5 people with him. So it when you're in college, Andrew, Dylan may end up being a CEO someday and take you with him, or vice versa, or you never know. And that's how strong relationships actually are because it's um it's sort of like politics.
Hmm.
You know, President Trump is the face, but he's got a whole team behind him. Any president, Biden's the face, he's got a lot of people behind him that are doing the real work, but
Yeah.
he's going to bring people with him that he's comfortable with, that he has a history with, right? So relationships do make a big, big difference.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, that it really is
yeah,
your network.
yeah,
Yeah. It's good that I have Dylan as my network because he's definitely a very motivated guy. I always say that when he has a schedule and he sticks to it. That's kind of the motto I gave him.
yeah.
He's
Um,
very, yeah. How would you say that? Because I've heard, especially with your own network, that you are the 10 people that you hang out with most, and it's really hard to let people go from your network if you're like you've known them for a little while, but they just don't really have I guess the drive, or they just don't have the really good habits that you want emulating through you. And would you say that you've ever had to like let somebody go from your network or anything like that?
um, trying to think. I think more like not necessarily like on purpose. Well, let me think. Yeah, there's a few people that I've had to keep sort of at arm's reach because they didn't have
Mm-hmm.
like a great reputation at Stellantis, but they were still good contacts for me to get information from.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say I let them go per se, but it was more like kept them at arm's reach or selectively didn't invite them to meetings or things like that. If that makes any sense. But I haven't had to do a ton of that, to be honest with you. Um,
Okay.
you know, it's um it's it's sort of hard to explain, but like when you're a supplier to like a Ford or GM, right? It's more like they have more of the power because they're spending the money. They
Hmm.
decide who's getting that, who's selling that next tire, who's supplying that next radio. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that you're quite. I think it's a great question you ask, Andrew. Like, and reflecting back on my career, um, I do think maybe I could have spent a little bit more. It is true that that you become sort of the people you hang out with, and I had a great group of high school friends, and Dylan will tell you I was hung out with the same guy Noel since seventh grade.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, from a professional perspective, I probably could have done a little bit better job of picking mentors, or I had a couple of really good mentors, but they both retired the last 7 or 8 years. I guess I really haven't had one. Um,
Really?
yeah. But then also because I'm 50 or 54 now, it's sort of like flipped. I've sort of turned into a mentor for a few people around the office. It's sort of like I said a few minutes ago. I'm the old guy in the office now, and it
Hmm.
happens, and it happened it happened really quick.
Happens a lot sooner than you think, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you talked about mentors, me and Dylan are actually trying to like look for somebody that would help mentor us right now, venturing into the real estate industry. And I got some advice from some seniors in the industry, and they really emphasized if you don't want to wait for an internship and you don't want to wait for a job in that field, the best thing would be to get a mentorship. How much would you recommend a mentorship for somebody like us just starting out?
Yeah, I mean, you could find somebody that's willing to get, somebody that's successful and willing to give some of their time back. I think it's very, very helpful. Um, yeah, we have this whole mentorship program at work. I haven't done a whole lot of it. I've done one or two, but yeah, I think it really helps to shortcut some of the tools of the trade, whatever that trade may be, right? Because
Hmm.
you may spin your wheels on something for, um, for weeks or months when somebody can tell you the shortcut, like take you 2 days.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And it's really great to have a mentor because they made all the mistakes so that
Hmm.
you don't have to make the mistakes and have to learn the hard way. Like they can
Right.
kind of guide you along. Like
Yeah.
let's say, for instance, I'm surveying land or like a parcel in Michigan. They can tell me this is who you need to talk to. You need to talk to the city, you need to talk to the planning and permitting committee, you need to get the soil composition, you need to get the surveyor out there so that I don't have to go and figure all that out myself. It's going to take
Yeah.
me a lot longer and it's going to make give me a lot less stress and headache. And
Yeah.
because I'm moving on to that, how would you say that your mentors helped you? Because you said you had two and they retired 10 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, I think some of it was like sort of how to negotiate. Again, it's for real estate and like the entrepreneurial stuff that Dylan wants to do, like
Yeah.
Dylan's talking about the app, like the virtual like travel app or whatever, which I think is a great I think that's probably one of the better ideas I've heard in a while. Like I don't know anything really in that area, like how to launch an app and how to protect an app and that kind of things. I've always, Sirius was very entrepreneurial and startup the first 5 or let's say 9 years. But in the
Mhm.
last 10 or 12 years, it's basically like any other corporate company. We got 8,000 employees and I think 14,000 call center agents. I mean, it's a big company now, right? So they've
Yeah.
been able to help me a lot with navigating political things, not stepping on landmines. Um,
Mm.
I'm not the kind of person, Andrew, that likes to kiss ass. And I don't do it really. But on the flip side, you don't have to like rub people's nose and stuff, or basically, I don't know. I sort of how to keep myself out of trouble. Keep myself out of trouble. Keep myself in good graces. Um,
Hmm.
you know, just little things of advice, like, and again, what you may be doing is different than ours, but like every day when I open my email, and one of my bosses told me this, years ago, but
Hmm.
um, like I may open my email. Back in the day, I used to get like 100 email a day, and like first thing I do is look for my boss and his boss. What they ask for, I do it. Unless there's like a fire burning, unless there's something falling apart, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds so stupid, right? Like because the day I can open my mailbox and say, well, yeah, the customer at Chrysler should be more important. They're asking for this. I need to work on that first. But as stupid as it sounds, just it's such a small thing. But work on the things they need first because you're helping them be successful, right? Um, so the same thing. Like right now, it's Stellantis. I have 3 or 4 new business people, And
Hmm.
whenever they churn every 3 or 4 years, I try to identify, okay, so there's this new woman named Angie and Erica. They're both my two new business vice president and director I have to work with. Like,
Hmm.
okay, what's important to them? What's going to make them successful? Because if you help them be successful, make themselves look good,
Yeah.
then not only look good, but be successful in what they want to do, then they're more apt to help you when you need something. They're more apt, and it creates a better working relationship. So sounds a little political, or but those kind of suggestions, like my dad never taught me that kind of stuff. It's not, I wasn't brought up in a corporate world like that, right? But
Hmm.
just little things like that. Go. I think that's what the mentors did for me. You
Hmm.
know, probably helped me get my vice president promotion too, which has been a number of years now. But they helped me position myself in a place of need. And this is
Hmm.
another thing with corporations too, right? Is especially if you guys jump into like maybe a startup, right? When you're at a startup, you might get hired to do A, um, but if you can identify, hey, nobody's doing this yet, right? It might be
Hmm.
scary, um, but I'll give you an example. So, in me and a guy named Sean Gibbons started on the same day.
Hmm.
He's much better at politics and placing himself. He's already an EVP and general manager.
Hmm.
Um, he may be our CTO someday, but I remember like going on trips with him, and it took him less than 6 months to move his family to New York and create this new role. And that new role turned into the point where now, 20 years later, he's in charge of the whole engineering group. He's got like 3,000 people working for him.
Ooh.
For me, I didn't do anything nearly that big. But what I
Hmm.
did say at that time is, we need a separate group managing tier ones, Delphi, Visteon, Sony, Panasonic. So they let me create a group, and I had 7 people working for me at one time to manage those companies. So that's what helped me get my first promotion from like manager up to director.
Hmm.
But that sort of allowed me to do a couple things. Allowed me to have a team doing the day to day work, so I could concentrate on bigger things, win
Hmm.
some new business, and that helped me get my vice presidentship. So, like my mentor back then was a guy named Doug. Um, and he's the one that sort of helped me, because I went to him one day and I was sort of
Hmm.
jealous of Sean, and I told him what's going on. He's like, "Well, look around. What does this company not have? What does it need? Put a
Yeah.
put a proposal together. How would it look like? What kind of funding you need? What is the outcome? How does it help the company? How does it help us the company meet its goals at the time, right?"
Hmm.
So he's the one that
Hmm.
helped me put that first proposal together for that, actually. Um,
Okay.
and yeah, I mean, so that's how I think my mentors have helped me. I guess sort of the political positioning, and just sort of thinking about the future. And
Hmm.
um, it's got to be as much about you as it is about the company. You know, I
So you
don't know.
always got to
That's
be thinking, well, okay, so you always got to be thinking about like what does the company need? What are they lacking? What could be improved upon? What could be changed? Just
yeah,
kind of always thinking and not necessarily just doing your job.
yeah, and it's hard because the harder, it depends what kind of company you come into. My company, our headquarters is in New York, Andrew. So,
Hmm.
my Farmington Hills, Michigan office, it's sort of hard to move around a lot. There's not a lot of opportunity. But
Hmm.
like in the early days, like if I would have moved my family to New York, I probably would be an EVP by now, because that's where a lot of the decisions are made or stuff, right? So
Hmm.
um I would say the last probably 7 or 8 years I've sort of been pigeonholed sort of into my role, sort of doing my job. But and you also get a point in your career where when you guys are young, right? You guys can take chances. It's a lot different. You can
Yeah.
ask your dad, right? When it's a lot different when you're older and you have a mortgage and kids' college to pay for. There's a stability factor too, and that's sort of. But now that
Yeah.
once my kids got out of school, I'm sort of on the backside of that. I could probably take a little more chances now. Now that Jake's almost done with school and
Hmm.
Dylan's almost halfway, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can definitely, it's weird because you would think the older you get, the more responsibilities you would have, and the more stuck in your ways you would be. You'd be less likely to be flexible.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, and that's why I mentioned this earlier, and I want to make this about me, but like this whole AI revolution, like, like our CEO is all about, and a lot of CEOs are, right? How can you do your job better? How can you,
Yeah.
and a lot of us worry about, especially the older people worry about, okay, well, that just means replacing me someday. But yeah, I mean, one of my goals next year is to spend a lot of time on AI and try to figure out how I can use it to make me better, right? But those tools, I know they're moving really fast, like you said, but
Mhm.
I mean, I've been working now since I mean, my first job was not real job, but I started working basically in seventh grade. But my first real job when I was 19. So that stuff hasn't been around the 30 years I've been working. 35 years I've been working.
Hmm. It just kind of exploded out of nowhere. And
Yeah.
now all of a sudden it seems every company wants AI in their stuff. And it's interesting because I read a study that said that 95% of AI projects do not turn a profit for the company and
Hmm.
are a waste.
Wow. It doesn't surprise me. It's I mean, that's the other thing you notice about like um industry is it's the I call it the shiny nickel effect. Like
Mhm.
Sirius XM is not the shiny nickel right now, right? Spotify is, right? But 10 years from now, it's going to be something new, and Spotify won't be the shiny nickel. I mean, the
Mhm.
generation behind you, like your kids, they won't be using Spotify. They'll be using something else, right?
Yeah.
And you can look at a lot of technologies, and it's sort of the same thing. Um,
Hmm.
it's I was brought up at a little different time than you guys were. Like when I was brought up, it really was get a job at GM, Ford, or Chrysler and spend your whole career at one place, right?
Hmm.
I think for your generation and the generation in front of you, it's a lot harder to do that, right? Like if you want promotions, if you want to move up, you have to be willing to move, you know? And I
Yeah.
think and I also just think it's yeah, I think it's part of the nature of the younger generations too. They want to move more, they want to try different things, you know?
Oh yeah, and that's definitely opportunities are not where they were used to be because companies don't really reward people for staying as much anymore. It's more like if you really want to move up in pay and promotion, you really need to switch. Like my
Yeah.
dad now, if he wants a promotion, he kind of switches branches. Like he won't stay in the same branch, he'll switch and he'll be the manager or in this branch, or he'll be a director over here. Now he'll be a
Yeah.
VP. So it kind of just feels like the corporate structure overall just switched where the loyalty and sticking with the company just isn't as reliable or like as emphasized
Yeah.
anymore.
I
Like
definitely
you
what
feel.
I definitely think that's true. And again, I'm so inbred into Michigan, right? I don't know a lot of the industry in the other areas. That's
Hmm.
it's a little unnerving for me with Dylan going to Utah, right? Because it's a whole different world out there. But here are the big three. It always was like they always gave pensions, but probably like 10 or 12 years ago, any new hire didn't get pensions anymore, right? But I mean,
Hmm.
I know guys that have been on retirement getting full pay and full insurance longer than they worked at GM. Like, they worked there 30 years and they've been retired for like 45. These guys are like 90 or whatever, right? So
Wow.
just the business case just doesn't hold up. You can't do that anymore. So,
No.
but when these companies start taking away the pensions and the lifetime health care and stuff,
Hmm.
I mean, there's no reason to be as loyal, right?
No.
Because okay, well, I'm stuck at this manager position or senior management position. I've been here 8 years. I don't
Hmm.
see myself going any further. I'm going to go jump to Ford and take a director position, or I'm going to go around here. Most people, work at one of the big three for a while, and then they go to like a supplier. I mean, that's sort of what I did. I was only at GM for like 2.5 years, but that's it's basically what I did.
Hmm.
Um, and you mentioned this earlier. You know, I tell this to Dylan sometimes too. Like sometimes, most of the people I know that have been successful in the outside world, they worked at a big company for a little while or wherever and got to be an
Hmm.
expert at developing and launching apps or an expert I mean, back to your real estate, thing. Maybe you work for a commercial real estate company for 5, 6, 7 years until you learn all this stuff, and then you and Dylan go out and start your own company, right? Um,
Yeah.
you let another company pay for your your lessons, right? Instead of trying to learn them on your own. You
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
and Dylan doesn't like it when I say that, but that's what a lot of people do. Whatever, you know, whatever it is. I don't know, working at an oil rig. I mean, you're working for an oil company, work for an oil company like Exxon for a while, and then
Yeah.
go out on your own trying to survey and buy property that has oil in it.
Mm.
That's not the only route. I'm just saying that's typically what I've seen a lot of people do. Get
Yeah.
experience first.
That's true. And I've heard that so many times. And I feel very much like Dylan when I say that I would gladly work 120 hours a week for myself, but I don't know how I would feel if I would feel the same if I was working for a company. I've heard
Yeah,
Dylan say that many times, and I feel the exact same way.
yeah,
And I do understand the importance of having experience because banks won't give you loans if you don't have experience. You need a history, you need a reputation. And what I feel is really big, especially in the real estate space, is reputation. Reputation precedes you, and it is what can really make or break a situation before it even happens.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's
Reputation,
closer to where you live, but I went out to Palo Alto for the first time a couple weeks ago,
hmm
which is really eye opening to me because I had never been there before.
hmm
But Stellantis sourced a company. I mean, it's the valley of startups, right? But
Yeah,
it's just interesting going to dinner with some of the people that work there, and like a lot of the kids coming out of college, right? Like it's what you said. Like they go there, they're working their asses off. They got all these options to hit it big. And if the company doesn't hit, they move somewhere else 2 years, 2, 3 years. That's the longest they'll stay at a company, right? Because they're
yeah,
trying to find one of these companies that's going to explode, right? Um, so I don't know if it's not exactly what you're saying, but and then don't get me wrong. Listen, I love nothing more for you and Dylan to be one of these people that I read about where created this app and sold it for $20 million before we even graduated college. I'd love for that to be you two,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, but for me personally, I was brought up a different way, different time. My dad was very blue collar, very get your degree. They call it work for a reason. Earn a paycheck, support your family.
Yeah,
Don't worry about so much about loving what you do. Um, so I mean,
yeah.
I'm not the I have an entrepreneurial spirit. I just wish I knew how to apply it more for Dylan and teach him more.
Yeah, well, my dad was raised the same way. He was raised to go to college to get a degree in something that works and just do that because that's going to be stable. It's going to get you good
Right.
pay. You're never going to have to worry about the risk. My dad's a lawyer. He's not really somebody who looks for risks. He's
Yeah.
the opposite. He's a smart, structured guy, and he
Yeah.
likes structured things with good ideals behind it and well thought out processes.
Yeah. Well, you sound like we are very common that way, probably.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say I inherit a lot of my traits from my dad. That is for sure.
Yeah. Well, good.
Yeah, but unfortunately Zoom is about to kick me out in a
Okay.
couple of minutes, but thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me.
Well, I hope I helped a little bit.
Yeah, no, you really this is for school and this is an assignment, but I really looked forward to this meeting and I thought that was really cool. I
Yeah.
didn't really get to know you that well when you came and visited from Michigan, so this is kind of nice.
Yeah. We're too busy eating lasagna.
Yeah, it was really good lasagna too. I will
Well,
say that.
we do have our house booked for the same time frame. Yeah, that we're gonna leave the day after the Super Bowl again. So we'll be out there again. But yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know when you guys' spring break is. We might shift it a little bit, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Hopefully, get in a little bit better shape so I can ski again.
Yeah, we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, you guys have a good night.
Yeah, you too. And take care.
Okay, take it easy.
Bye.